I am livid. So it doesn't help that this is the third time that I'm recording this video because my autofocus has decided not to do the autofocus thing. So everything that I have recorded the past several days has been blurry. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is for me to say, Missouri, what the f. So about halfway through last month, a bill was proposed which would cause a librarian to be imprisoned and fined for allowing a minor to access inappropriate materials. So if you want to read the bill and form your own opinion of it, it's linked in the doobly-doo below. It's only a few pages and it's not too difficult of a read. I definitely encourage you to read it and get your own opinion on it. But the whole premise is that every library would have a board of unpaid individuals who do not work for the state and especially do not work for the library. I believe it's supposed to be 5 community members on the board, and they just determine if a book is appropriate or not for minors. Page 3, lines 40 through 44. The board may order any material deemed to be age inappropriate sexual material to be removed from public access by minors at the public library. Any such determination or order made by the board shall be the final decision or order on such materials, and shall not be subject to any review by the governing body of the public library, the state, or any political subdivision thereof. This board has the first and final say on what is inappropriate. Some of you might be thinking, okay, what's the big deal? The thing is, we already see what a small number of people can do to books in public schools. The way I see it, there are plenty of parents out there that are perfectly okay with their children reading books that other parents would just, their minds would be blown. Not to mention, it's really easy to get a lot of political and religious bias thrown in there. I did some reading in some news articles, and the person who proposed this bill mentioned several books that he thought were inappropriate for children. Not children, minors. We're not just talking like 10 and under, we are talking like anybody under 18. One of the books that was mentioned was Alice on Her Way. This is one of the books in the Alice series by Phyllis Reynolds Naylor, and it's kind of a long-running series where we're basically watching this girl named Alice grow up. This book in particular does have some sort of inappropriate for a 10-year-old, but honestly kind of real-life situations for people that are reaching like 13 through 18. So it's been a hot minute since I read the book, but from what I remember, there was mention of oral sex. It wasn't described in any detail, it was literally just girl talk. Like, Alice's friend was talking about what happened. And I think that there were a couple of lesbians that were dating, but we didn't like get any hot lesbian moments. It was just they were a couple. There's nothing particularly graphic. Would I give it to a 10-year-old? I don't know, probably, because I was probably like 9 or 10 when I read it, but that's beside the point. Here's the thing. Most libraries already have some sort of policy in place. Librarians do have some sense about them. I can say that as a person who used to work in a library. Like, I'm pretty dumb, but I am not about to let a 9-year-old walk out of my library carrying 50 Shades of Grey without their parents knowing about it. So there were a couple times where I was, getting somebody checked out and they just had some books that didn't seem right for their age range. And their parents were there and I was like, do you know what this book is about? And they're like, yes, I'm okay with it. And it's like, okay, cool. We'll keep on going. Have a lovely day. Your books are due back in like 2 weeks. But this bill suggests that if the librarians even accidentally slip up, the entire library could lose funding. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean you have the right to take it away from everybody else. It just makes me really glad that I grew up when I did, because there wasn't this political movement to safeguard me from inappropriate content, and my parents didn't care. I don't want to say that they didn't care. If they didn't read the books that I was reading ahead of me, they would at least look up synopses so that if there was anything that was maybe a little inappropriate, we could talk about it. Because I think back on some amazing books that I read growing up, books that shaped me into who I am today, for better or for worse, books that taught me through its characters who I wanted to be and who I don't want to be. Books like Looking for Alaska by John Green, or Cut by Patricia McCormick, or 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher, or Go Ask Alice by Anonymous. I just wonder how many children and teens, especially teens, are going to be impacted by this. Because young adult, as a genre, tends to get kicked in the butt a lot by people who want to keep their kids away from the material in it, even though it seems a lot better and safer for them to encounter these themes in book form than like anywhere else. I mean, you figure Go Ask Alice shows that drugs are a bad deal, where like 99% of the pop music you hear in your local supermarket is like, drugs are cool, man. If you want to hear me go on and on about that, I have a whole video on that. My biggest pet peeve is that a few people who are offended by a few things are trying to prevent everybody else from seeing it. Just because you are offended by a book that talks about oral sex does not mean that you should prevent somebody else's child from reading it and enjoying it and learning from it. On a more technical level, I really do wonder how they would enforce this. Like, are they just going to have a locked up room where they put all of the inappropriate materials? Because otherwise, what's to stop a 12-year-old from picking up an E.L. James book and being like, ooh, I wonder what this is about? Then, you know, scurrying off to the back corner of a library. And I mean, does this mean that parents can get in trouble if they check out a book for their kid that is sexually inappropriate? And I mean, at what point does this go beyond just sex? Heck, Winnie the Pooh has been challenged and banned in several places throughout the US because of talking animals, stuffed animals. It's probably mostly Eeyore, you know, the stuffed, depressed donkey. I guess I did want to mention one more thing about libraries. You can go up to a librarian and tell them that you do not want your child to have access to certain materials. When I say access in this context, I mean check out materials. It's really not that hard. You just go up to the librarian, you tell them the kid's name. It's even better if you have the library card, because then they can just scan it and it pulls the account right up. And then they can just make a note saying like, okay, little Joey is not allowed to check out 50 Shades of Grey. Not that most librarians would allow him to begin with, but that's beside the point. So you as an individual parent do have the power to stop your kids from checking out materials that you do not want them to have access to. And this in no way impacts any other kids. So let me know down in the comments below, what are your thoughts on this bill? Do you agree with it? If so, tell me why. I want to understand what the thought process is, genuinely. Sound off in the comments below, like this video. Typical YouTuber stuff. I'm gonna shut up and I'm gonna go edit this video and I'm gonna go take a nap because I've been up all night because I work the night shift. Have a lovely day and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye!